What is up, Top Shot Nation, and welcome to our moment reveal for the Fresh Thread set coming out very soon at the end of November. Very excited for this one. It's our first limited edition common set of the new season, Series 3. I'm joined by my right-hand guy, Austin Kent, our content lead. How's it going, man?
Oh, it's going great. I've been so excited about this set for so long. This season's been, so fun. I'm excited to actually start revealing these moments that we've been excited about for a while.
So just to break it down, we're talking about, for the set, 18 of the biggest stars that changed teams in the offseason. This will be an open set with maybe a renewal around the trade deadline, after the trade deadline, for players that are changing teams then. It's not incorporating every single player that changed teams because that's far too many, but these are some of the heavy hitters, and these are going to be their first moment in their fresh threads on Top Shot. Austin, as you were curating the set, what were some things you were looking for? What were things that made you smile as you curated all of them?
Yeah, I've always, going back to it, when I was a kid, whether pulling like cardboard cars or even just waiting for media day to get those first glimpses of a player rocking their new jersey. It was always special to me. So to be able to sort of recreate that in the form of this set, where we were able to sort of proactively set aside some of the funnest first moments of a player on their new team. It was just an exciting thing to be a part of. I'm a huge fan, like so many other basketball fans, of any transaction period, whether it's the deadline, whether it's the free agency period opening, whether it's draft day. So to be able to take some of that passion that I know is shared by so many other transaction junkies and actually put it in a Top Shot set was quite fun.
F5 season is arguably the best season in the entire NBA calendar. And yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. I remember playing like NBA Live 2003 and just like trading Tim Duncan to new teams to see what he would look like in a new uniform. So the start of the season is always ripe with anticipation and excitement to see how these new players are fitting in on their new teams. And we've got some heavy hitters here. So without further ado, let's just dive right into it. We're going to start with Steven Adams, who, it's hard to believe he hasn't been in grit and grind city his entire career with how he plays the game. Let's break down this moment, Austin. What did you see here?
Steven Adams just makes everything look cool. It's just such a chill guy. I think, like you mentioned, it's just a perfect fit to see him in this with this franchise, given just how hard he works and how hard he plays. But I love the fact that he's flashing some of that offensive skill set. 17 points in this one, and just such a subtle little feed down to the low post. Like, it's no big deal. I'm really excited to see Adams grow with this young Grizzlies team as they find their place in the West. I think he's such a great pickup for them.
Yeah, and the craziest thing about Steven Adams is, just based on how he looks, you would assume that he's in his 30s. The guy is only 28 years old, went to Pittsburgh for a year, out of New Zealand, famously has, I think it's 16 or 17 siblings, an older sister that is an Olympic medalist in the shot put. Just a crazy family. I can't, like, people talk about the Watt family in the NFL. There's no one like the Adams family coming out of New Zealand. Moving ahead here, we've got Patrick Beverley. Beverley finding a new home with the Minnesota Timberwolves. He's been in Los Angeles with the Clippers for years, and here we see the nifty pass to Cat at the top. What have you seen from both Beverley so far this season and the Wolves as a whole?
The Wolves have been the spooky good young team for so long now that anytime they do get like sort of a highly competitive veteran player, it's very interesting to see how that's going to play out as this team looks to take it to the next level. So I was very intrigued to see how Beverley would fit into the culture of the team, and the sort of the impact that he would have on the rest of the squad. It's been fun to watch it so far. And if anybody's wondering, I watched this moment frame by frame, making sure his feet didn't touch the ground before he got that pass off, and it's good.
Yeah, he's typically known for his defense, but here we see the court vision. The Wolves out of the gate started a little hot. They're in a little bit of a lull. Seems like endless talent on the roster. They're still just trying to figure it out. Moving along to the guy that replaced Patrick Beverley effectively in the rotation with the Clippers. They were traded for each other over the summer. We've got Eric Bledsoe, and obviously started his career with the Clippers. He looks like he's right back at home with the Clippers, who are taking a lot of people by surprise with their early season success.
Yeah, Eric Bledsoe is the lone player in this drop who's rocking some fresh threads because the Clips have some new branding, since his last tenure there, but certainly not his first time in Los Angeles. And I love this dish, and I love how the Clippers have turned to so many different options to really help them this year. And we've seen that with Reggie Jackson. Paul George is taking this game to the next level. And I think Bledsoe is just such an underrated pickup for this team because he could be so good.
Yeah, we sort of saw it last year with the Nets. The Bruce Brown type, the point guard that can also kind of play center. We're seeing it a little bit with Gary Payton II with the Warriors. Eric Bledsoe, come playoff time, I imagine he'll fill in very similarly. He is just early in his career, he was termed mini LeBron because he just has so much brute strength and athleticism. And I'm happy to see him thriving with the Clippers after a pretty frustrating year for him last season with the Pelicans. Moving along to the headliner of the drop, a guy that coming out of the offseason, a lot of NBA Twitter was scratching their head saying, isn't that guy past his prime, over the hill? Well, DeMar DeRozan out of the gate has been on fire. And here we see him putting in the work against his former team. Austin, what do you see here?
I was immediately drawn to this moment watching DeMar put OG in the blender right here in Toronto. Obviously, Raptors fans want nothing but good things for DeMar DeRozan. And to see his success with the Bulls team, which, credit to the front office, they stacked that team over the offseason. But then you look at players like DeRozan and players like Zach LaVine, who've slowly and gradually improved their game year after year. I think you're seeing the result of that. And, I'll be rooting for DeRozan. I think most of Canada will as well.
Awesome. Moving ahead here to one of the more momentous plays in the set. We've got Spencer Dinwiddie, another big pickup for the Wizards, who are the darlings of the early NBA season. They have been stellar, and Dinwiddie's been a big reason why. How did you go about choosing this moment?
This is any Wizards fan that maybe wasn't sure what to expect from Dinwiddie, because he's obviously missed so much time recently. They got a good dose of what to expect pretty early on. This is the second game of the season, and the Wizards won this game in overtime, but only because Dinwiddie forced the tie, with about 30 seconds left in regulation. 34 points on the game for him. And he's just one of those guys that, if you underestimate him, he can lead the game in scoring and really make an impact. And the Wizards collected a ton of those players this offseason, which I think plays a big role in why they've had the success that they've had so far.
Yeah, Brooklyn has been a little slow out of the gate. It's clear how much they miss a guy like Dinwiddie. Granted, they didn't know what their roster would look like going into the season. But Dinwiddie, obviously he was injured all last season, but over the last few years, he's just been one of the most efficient scorers in the entire league, gets to the foul line relentlessly and knows how to finish on all three levels of the court. So moving ahead to Evan Fournier, and this one was from the Knicks season opener. Fournier and Julius Randle made history as the first two Knicks to score 30-plus points in the season debut. And Fournier caught fire in the fourth quarter and overtime, finished the game with 32 points. And this one of the fiery emotions. Fournier is going to love playing at the Garden.
Yeah, it does feel like such a great fit. And what a great way to impress the home crowd in your first game. This triple with about 50 seconds left gave the Knicks a lead that they would eventually just hold on to in double overtime. So not a bad way to your new fans against your former team, no less.
That's true. Moving ahead, we've got Devonte Graham, the Kansas alum, one of the kind of shiftiest and more creative scorers in the entire NBA. And here we see him showing off balance, buzzer beating, leaner from the perimeter. How did you go about choosing this one?
Yeah, NBA Twitter was up in arms with Steph hit a floater three. but Devonte Graham did it first. I'm so excited to be able to get this moment for him because he's an underrated scorer. He was great in Charlotte, and I think he's an intriguing piece of a Pelicans team that's still sort of searching for themselves. But when any day a shot like this falls, it's going to be a good day.
Yeah, I would say it's been a tough fit for him so far. Obviously, with Zion coming back, there's just a lot of guys on their team that like having the ball in their hands. Graham is at his best with the ball in his hands. Will be interesting to see how that develops as the season goes on. Moving ahead, we've got Montrezl Harrell, who looks renewed, reinvigorated, and stronger than ever with the Wizards. Has clearly kind of cemented himself as the sixth man of the year, Montrezl Harrell, rather than the afterthought with the Lakers last season. And here we see half-court buzzer beater. Needless to say, this one was an easy one to include, right?
Yeah, everything has been going right for Montrezl Harrell and for the Wizards so far this season. Obviously, Harrell, not known for his three balls, but anytime you can get a shot like that to fall, we take it. I love the thumbnail on this one as he sort of celebrates with his new crowd. And, Harrell in Washington, like you said, like he's been slept on. Like it's sort of a weird year for him last year. But before that, time and time again, he proved in a Clippers uniform that he could produce when given the opportunity. Well, now he's got an opportunity, and he's done great so far, averaging 17.8 points per game so far this season. And I'm excited to see what he and what this team can do for the rest of the year. It's a long season, so we'll see.
We've got another Wizard, obviously the team that did the most maneuvering this offseason, and a guy that came along with Montrezl Harrell in the trade for Russell Westbrook. We've got Kyle Kuzma making his Wizards debut here. And Kuzma has been super strong, has really kind of established himself as a big rebounder this season. And here we see the nice up and under reverse layup.
Yeah, yet another weapon that came from that Lakers still. You got to think the Wizards are quite happy with their return on that Westbrook trade. And Kuzma, we've seen it before early on during his tenure with the Lakers, before they sort of pivoted from the young, LA team to the LeBron-led vet team. Kuzma wasn't afraid to take on a high scoring load. He wasn't afraid to shoulder that. So we're seeing, stuff that shouldn't really surprise us from Kuzma this year, but those rebounding numbers, especially early on, were quite crazy, consistently cracking double digits.
Next up, we've got Kyle Lowry with the Miami Heat. Lowry, arguably the kingpin that changes the landscape of the NBA, especially the Eastern Conference, if all things work out for Miami this year. And here we see him connecting out of bounds to Jimmy Butler, the alley-oop. Of course, I might have this the wrong way, but I believe Kyle Lowry is Jimmy Butler's children's godparent. And here we see the connection on the court.
Yeah, one of the funnest parts of the young season for me has been watching Miami fans that are now getting the chance to watch Kyle Lowry night in and night out. Really appreciate the little things he does, right? Because basketball fans worldwide, they know Lowry, they know he's an all-star, but there's all those little things that he does that, make that home crowd really appreciate him. And seeing just a hilarious play like this where he just, no big deal, just darts and alley-oop from out of bounds. Heat fans are in for a great season with Lowry, and this is another team that Toronto fans will be happy to support as they watch Lowry really make an impact on a team that could be a legitimate contender.
Next up, we've got Patty Mills, who quickly has become essential to Brooklyn and their offense. And Mills has long been one of the best shooters in the entire NBA. Here we see him in the season debut. We had, by the way, about 80 Top Shot collectors in the suites watching alongside us when Patty Mills hit this shot.
Yeah, he's been such a great addition for this Brooklyn team that just, got so stacked with the type of names that they were adding. And Patty Mills is one of those players where they're not going to need him to crack 20 points every night, but the fact that he can be this sort of spot scorer just makes them so dangerous. I think you'll see Patty Mills, really sway some games their direction come playoff time. He went 7 for 7 from beyond the arc in his debut with his new team. So Patty Mills is no stranger to big performances. We watched it in the Olympics. He can be a great scorer when he needs to be, but he's also a great system player, and I think Brooklyn's lucky.
Moving ahead here, we've got a guy that signed pretty late in the offseason. I think he expected to have a bevy of quarters, and by the end of the offseason, he landed in a spot that's really good for him, and that's Kelly Oubre. Oubre obviously came off a pretty disappointing season last year with the Warriors, but with the Charlotte team, they just seem to be having a lot of fun every night.
Yeah, you nailed it. He gives this Hornets team yet another reason for fans to, watch them avidly on League Pass. And it is fun to see these teams that are young and they don't really know how good they are. You got all these young pieces that are learning to play together. And to have Oubre Jr., who's been an entertaining player at every stop in his career thus far, now join that core. It's quite an interesting move, I thought. I'm excited to see where it goes.
Yeah, and of course, Kelly Oubre, one of NBA Twitter, NBA Reddit's favorite players, long considered the best looking athlete in the NBA. So Charlotte leveling up on all fronts. Moving ahead, we've got Ricky Rubio, one of my favorite players in the NBA, one of my favorite players ever. Best known as Olympic Ricky for what he does for Spain, but he's been off to a really hot start with Cleveland this year. And Cleveland's been surprising a lot of people out of the gate. Here we see him breaking down Trae Young off the dribble, giving Trae Young a little taste of his own medicine.
Ricky Rubio has always been a fun player to watch, and I think he's landed in a great spot in Cleveland, which is this young team that sort of performed better maybe than we expected, and they've certainly got such a bright future. And Rubio these days is kind of the elder statesman, one of the elder statesmen that sort of fits onto that young team and has just done a great job leading. He's taken his game to higher levels, even since we set this moment aside. Colin Sexton is now out for the foreseeable future with an injury, and Rubio just has stepped up across the board. And I think a young team like the Cavs is going to watch, how he's performing, and it's going to help as players like Darius Garland, can continue to improve, obviously in the backcourt there. So the Cavs are a really fun team to watch, and Ricky Rubio, one of the most fascinating playmakers in the NBA.
You hit the nail on the head. Very fun team to watch. Ricky Rubio has historically been just very fun to watch. Great passer. And he and Darius Garland really complement each other well. Rubio, very underrated defender, one of the best perimeter defenders in the entire NBA, and obviously a very pass-first point guard on every level. Next up, we've got another guy that took a little while for him to land with his new team, but he did the famed rivalry cross-country switch, going from the Lakers to the Celtics. We've got Dennis Schröder, who has been a pretty solid addition for the Celtics early on.
Yeah, Schröder is such an interesting piece to any team. We've seen we've seen a couple different Schröders over the years, as he was this promising young rookie in Atlanta. Then he was this fascinating part of a three-headed point guard lineup in Oklahoma City. Not a great year last year with the Lakers, but now, plunked onto the Celtics team. I think you really don't know what you're going to expect. But we've seen him start to settle into Boston, and he can be, exactly what I think the best sort of scenario of Dennis Schröder can be, which is this explosive scoring guard that's going to be able to, to create plays for himself and for others. And they're never going to need to rely on that sort of consistently, but when you can get it, nice little no-look lob here to Time Lord, I think you'll take it. And if the Celtics team kind of starts reaching what I think most people consider their potential to be, I think Schröder will be a big part of it.
Yeah, and we haven't seen a number 71 in recent memory, so got to give Dennis the nod there. Nicely done, picking a number that is original. True NFT move there. Next up, we've got Russell Westbrook, arguably the other headliner of this drop. And, he's just been doing this for 15 years now. The guy throws it down. He navigates the defense, splits the doubles like few others in NBA history. And years from now, we're gonna look back and say we should have appreciated Russell Westbrook a little more. How did you go about choosing this moment?
It's a weird start to the season for Russell Westbrook. I don't think anybody will deny that, even for the Lakers in general. And I think this is the type of situation where you're going to see a player and a team, they're slowly going to gel over time. And I think they can afford to take that time to get there. It's weird when you're a player of like Westbrook's sort of magnitude and play style to settle into a new team, let alone a new team with superstar teammates. But in this game, I think this was the third or fourth game of the season. We did start to see some vintage Russ, 33, 10 and 8 in this one. I just love seeing them split the young Spurs defense and throw it down on this one. And I think we're just going to see Westbrook get better and better as the season progresses.
Fantastic. And that rounds out the players that are going to be in this drop, but we've got 3 more that are going to be in the set. Let's turn it over to those that are going to be the challenge rewards. We are not telegraphing the sequence at which these will be the challenge rewards, but let's turn it over to the other future Hall of Famer that joined the late. I guess they also re-added Dwight Howard. So they got a bevy of future Hall of Famers, but let's turn it over to Carmelo Anthony, who has been one of the brightest spots in Los Angeles's up and down start to the season. And Carmelo just busting out the shooting and the scoring as if it's 2011, 2012 all over again.
This was the player on a new team who I was most excited about. Well, this and one of the other ones we're going to get to. Seeing Melo in a Lakers uniform, seeing as a teammate for LeBron James, fascinating to anybody who's watched basketball over the course of the past 2 decades. And this is a particularly special moment. It's with this jumper that Melo moved into number 9 on the all-time scoring list. And oftentimes when you hit milestones, it'll come on a free throw or a somewhat banal play. But this just came on such a nice 3. You got the 3 to the dome. And I love it. I love everything about this moment. 28 points for Carmelo Anthony in this one. I'm just so grateful that Melo is back in a situation like this where the playoffs are not just within reach, but true contention. And to see Carmelo get that opportunity after a weird few years in the league a few years ago, it's fun. And I think I hope basketball fans aren't sleeping on how cool that is.
Yeah, he is, as you said, 9th all time on the NBA's all-time leading scoring list. My guess is that he's going to move up at least another spot or 2 by the time he's through. And he just looks like he's found the fountain of youth. Many older players have said that being in the dry air desert of Los Angeles has been good for them. We've seen that before. So very excited to see how Carmelo continues to progress through the season. Now, switching gears a little bit to a guy that is now on his hometown team, we've got Kemba Walker with the Knicks. It was a very sweet homecoming for Knicks fans who have been following Kemba since his days in high school at Rice in the Bronx. And here we see Kemba at the Garden doing what he does best, which is just hitting shots and crossing over on the defense to make nice step back shots like this.
Yeah, Kemba built for the Garden. What a fun addition to this team. I love this play. If you really watch the move he makes to start clearing the space on Embiid, it's not quite a sham god, but we talked about this internally. It feels sham god adjacent. Kemba is electric, cardiac Kemba for a reason. And to see him sort of just bounce around the court and hit jumpers like that, it's fun to see because we're in for a lot more fun performances at the Garden, and I think Knicks fans are rightly excited for Kemba.
Absolutely. Last but certainly not least, I think probably the most underrated pickup of the entire offseason, and the proof is in the pudding for what he's done for Chicago on the defensive end and just in terms of pace. We've got Lonzo Ball, who is slowly but surely kind of redefining himself as a defensive stopper on every level, and came into the NBA as a definitive point guard. He still has those point guard skills, the court vision, unlike pretty much anyone else in the league. But he's sliding in really nicely as a wing on this team. Doesn't need the ball in his hands to contribute. How do you go about choosing this moment as his debut moment on the Bulls?
You know, as a Pistons fan, this was on my timeline quite a bit, watching Beef Stew get his bell rung to this degree. But Lonzo Ball is the other player probably that I've been most excited about watching him in a new situation. It was a bit of a weird like Kyle Kuzma we were talking about before. They're starting to get into a system with the Lakers, sort of pre-LeBron, the young Lakers. And that kind of just got thrown to the wind when obviously that team pivoted to the LeBron era. I think Lonzo, ever since then, hasn't really been able to show exactly why he was the number 2 pick in the draft. Kind of a weird fit in New Orleans while he was there. But when the Bulls picked him up this offseason, I was so excited to see, maybe a new chapter of what Lonzo Ball can do, because fascinating playmaker, like you said, and a defensive stopper, really. I think a surprisingly effective defensive player during his stint, ever since he was young. But to see that now on a team that's like a legitimate contender in the East, I think we're going to see Lonzo raise his game as the Bulls raise their game, and I'm excited to watch it.
Absolutely. There you have it, folks. All 18 moments in this set. Again, we're going to have 15 of them in the drop, an additional 3 of them as challenge rewards. Can't wait for it. It's going to be electric. And Series 3, obviously, we started with some base set packs. We are laying the foundation. We are going to have unbelievable moments coming out through both common sets like Fresh Threads, rare sets coming by end of year. And then in the new year, we're going to see a bunch of great legendary sets. We might also see that historical legendary set around Christmas time. So just stay tuned. A lot of great stuff coming. Austin, thanks for joining me. Unbelievable work curating this set. And community, until next time, happy collecting. To stay up to date on all things NBA Top Shot and catch the latest, don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.